Hey guys, Team Lead here again, and today I want to show you how to update and push your already working application. So in our case, the YouTube thumbnail creator, how to just push that into another level to avoid just hard coding stuff and add more control over the failure of situations. So without further ado, let's jump right into. So last time, if you remember, last time what we did, we made a lot of fun stuff. We added more fonts, we added the ability to take things into consideration, and what I'm going to do to show you today is just update a few things in the sense that to add one more level of so to speak dynamic. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to get a string of file paths. So why this is cool, let me explain you my train of thought. So now we have fonts, we have the folder called fonts, and as you can see we can insert here things. But for example, if you're one of those things where you just downloaded a font and you want to use that straight away, we will not be able to do, because we have this thing where we say the variable name, we install that font to use, and I don't think that's just super sexy. So how can we actually improve this? We can extract a method here, and we can make a font family list like so. That's one to do it. That's one way to go. We just call all of the font family here, and from the font list we just say that those things exist. So I think that really works, and we can say, let's call this method, let's call it load all fonts. I think that really makes sense. And if we go inside, it currently is same static method, but we can improve it by doing so. Let's input file paths here. Currently it will say that, oh, we don't have that, but don't worry, we can say string here, and let's call it paths. Now what we need to do, we need to go through this. So this is incorrect, we just passed as a string, so I would say use it as a string array. Now we can iterate through that. So that's how we can do it. That's a very simple thing to do. We just call for, right? And we take paths and we do paths length. And this way we are iterating through our array. Now we don't really need variables as such, but what we can do like there, as you can see, we're using our fonts family list. So we'll take this one, we'll take this to the upper level, and instead of all this, we just take this, and do you already see the idea how can we update it? Yes, it's quite simple. Instead of all this, let's just comment this out for now, like so. And as you can see, we need to create new font. So we can even do that as a one-liner. We can say font list add. We're calling list function to add stuff. And let's install font like so. We're adding this inside, and paths, instead of using string here, we're just going to say paths and I, because remember we're iterating through our array, and this is how we get our fonts or font list. And we can debug this. You always debug and try to see if it works. Yeah, as you can see, it works exactly the same way. We have 3 fonts at least, or 2 in this case. Let's run it, and as you can see, yes, Baba's new, Minecraft are free. But what we did here, and why development in this way is absolutely a gem. It's because we made it in a so that we can download any new fonts here. So remember, we used that Minecrafter and we downloaded that. So now we can download even, I don't know, let's say another 20, 50 or whatever fonts, and you just need to put those fonts into the fonts folder, and as long as those fonts are TTF, that's going to work for us and our logic is not changed. So this way we can have dynamic 50, 20, 100 or whatever fonts. So I think this is a huge improvement. Now to improve this application one way further, I would say what we need to have some kind of control over the things. Let me show you what I mean. So currently we'll just say, for example, please select from the list, and I can say letter A. And that's actually quite bad because for now the application runs, so it's, you know, that as an input works, and we are then selecting that font. So we're trying to use item from array, and his position will be letter A, so that's incorrect. His position should be an integer. So how can we proceed? So I would say we need to change this ability to read. So if we go inside and see, there is not much things to fix. So we need to somehow have an ability to check if what we read was correct. So we need that returned, but if the thing we chose was incorrect, we need to somehow ask that question again, right? So this is a write line. This is what we want to do with that, and this is an output. Now there are quite a few ways to go about this. I'll just give you an example, very quick implementation by just saying what I wanna receive. So let's fast forward a bit. And we're back. So what I did and how did I improve it? I added very simple logic to control questions. So how it goes right now, let me show you real quick. So for example, it says, obviously it wants an integer, so you want to input something that makes sense, like a number, but let's say you input letter A. So we are switching on that, and if that is an incorrect thing, it is going to say passed parameter was incorrect and we're expecting an integer. Now if you pass an integer, we're going to check that, and that's going to be a correct way. So how I implemented that, let me just show you real quick. I want to still resume things here. I want to do it in a very sexy way, but what I want to add is I want to add a type. So this way, when I call this method, I know what kind of type I passed, and on that type I'm going to check. So this is very simple logic, and by doing so, I passed this question, I use the question, I still print out all of the possible outputs in our fonts collection, so that works fine. And the only thing I need to do here, a little bit of programming magic, or rather more advanced topic. This is a reflection, and I really need to see what kind of object is being used. So for this case, I'm just checking if, for example, that's an integer, do something. If that's a string, probably everything can be used to parse as a string. So in this way, I just say that is correct. And for our integers, I used logic where I try to parse it. If my parsing of integer is incorrect, I say that the type was mismatched, so that's not the type. I break this check, so I don't need to do anything anymore. And I added this if here. basically what I'm checking, if I try to convert, for example, as you said, we put letter A and I try to convert that as an integer, letter A is not an integer. So in this instance, I write that the passed character was of incorrect type, and we expected, and I input here a full name of something that we expected here. Rather, a full name, if your system something doesn't look sexy to the user, you can say just name. That's going to say int rather than system dot something. And I put thread to sleep. So I put a thread to sleep so that you would be able to read it, what was done. So we can say, we can actually clear our console like so. We can say what we wanted to say, and we can after that clear console again, and we can call this method again. So how it looks in practice, again, let me just show you real quick. It expects as an integer, so I input A. As you can see, it says passed character was of incorrect type, and let's try to put integer this time. I put 1, and that flow passed. So this is very simple way to deal with this kind of things. But I reckon this is a very correct way to go about such things. And as you can see below, we have pretty much the same logic. So the only thing which is different, we want to print this what we want to print. So now we have to break our head a little bit. How can we do it without changing and destroying our logic as such? And what I would suggest a very simple solution. We can expect let's say a unknown list, or pretty much any type list, and we can try to work with that. The only downside is that if such list, you know, will be provided, is going to be a problem for us. So now we have to think how far ahead we want this logic to go. So what I would suggest, just, you know, we can definitely make this like one shot or very specific logic, instead of, you know, being very domain agnostic. So what we can do here, we can take this, when we can do a very simple check. If font list obviously is not equal to null, and font list count is more than 0, we're going to do all of this to print that font list. If that's not so, we will not do anything again, and this way we can handle this, we can use this method again without thinking too much. So as you can see here, there's also a console clear after every question. So let's check if we are clearing this. So I would say if we remove this from here and we clear console on every run, I'm thinking we can remove this console clear as well. And what we can do here, we can change something like var question or second question equals, and we can just, instead of console right lining that, we can use this, and let's just for now comment this out, and we're going to get results. So our result will be second res equals handle question. Obviously we want to be handled the same way, so we enter second, is going to be expecting integer as well. The only difference is we're passing null, so we don't want to use the list as such, and we are receiving that. So if we uncomment this and insert here, let's Let's remove that. Oh, apologies, I went a bit too far. So it's second res equals check. Let's try and see how it goes, because remember we can pass string here which is empty. Let's try it. Let's go for first. So let's use 0, it worked. The default is, again, let's try to put letter A. As you can write, letter A was incorrect. Let's input 5, and that's going to be a problem. Why? Because we are now expecting a line of things. So I would say more or less the logic here stands. The only difference we need to change is just we need to change it to, you know, not line operation, or rather one character, but to line operation. So let's do just that. I'll skip forward again to save time for you guys. And here we are. Everything is the same. Let's input integer here. As you can see, the input font size, we can input an integer. If I say, for example, let's call it something like I'll input team lead. It says the character if correct, it expects an integer. Obviously I can provide that, and I can also press enter. That way it can work. The only problem is that in this way the string is going to be returned, and we need to fix that because we're trying to parse here. So obviously the string should not work that way. So it's the part of the integer. We need to go here and see if everything was indeed correct. So what I would do, I would say I'll try this again, and let's input default. Let's say team lead. It says character was incorrect. Let's go inside. And it wants to read something. So let's press enter. It is empty, and if it's empty, we return that. Oh, this is the bug. It exited in the same way, so this way. So we need to improve our logic here like so, that we are returning an empty, and we are also setting the type match that was true. This way we should avoid the bug where we inserted something in the static, and so let's try again. Let's remove that, and please input the size. Let's try team lead. It was incorrect, as you can see. Let's try to use enter, and we still have that. So why do we have that? If you go inside, and you will see that the question, the type, and the selected font is being set. So what we need to do here is to change that a little bit. How would you go about it? So let me show you how these bugs happen in the static classes. So if you go and you input stuff, so first of all, this shouldn't even run, but somehow it is running. Second question, we let that go, and it says please input the size or press enter. So if we just do enter, as you can see, that returns an empty string, and that works. But let's try to do it again without stopping, and let's say team lead. Character was incorrect, expected type. Now I'll press enter, but let me just put it here, and I'll say enter, and the font is going to be set. Now, do you know why that happened? That happens because we used this function recursively, meaning that if there was a mismatch, it entered it here, and since it entered, this was already set and it was not changed. So in this case, what we want to do, we want to save us a trouble, and we would like to null that, because it doesn't make much sense, right? So let's remove this, right? How can you do it? What can you do it, and how can you do it? The quickest way to go through this problem and to avoid things being left out and still using it recursively, what I would do, I would just add very simple nullification, so to speak. So I'm setting our font to empty string always, and if it's going to be called again, this is not going to be something left out from our previous check. So this is why recursive functions are a little bit pain in the ass, and usually in like backend type software programming we try to avoid those, because there is few things to check, and you know, you can really have problem with those. So without further ado, I think this is for today's session. This is absolutely fine. We did quite a lot. Our program still works. We updated our fonts, we updated our questions so that they are not as easily broken as they were before. The only thing I'm thinking next time we'll be adding not those just, you know, images, but I think we'll add a logic to call one image input and the other image output, and we'll also be adding ability to use it from the cloud or from directory inside our computer. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Try to hit that like and subscribe buttons. It's going to help me and you guys to bring out more vids, and see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye bye.